You ever have one of those moments where your whole world just stops? Like time slows down, and you're standing there trying to figure out if what you're seeing is real or some kind of sick joke? Yeah, that happened to me last summer. I remember it clear as day. My girl, Jasmine, had been acting a little off for a couple of weeks. You know when someone's there but not really there? Always on her phone, laughing at messages she wouldn't share, saying she needed more me time. But I'm not the jealous type. I trusted her. Or at least, I thought I did. So one Saturday, she tells me she's heading over to her best friend Maya's place to hang out. They've been besties forever, so it didn't even raise a red flag. Cool, I said. Have fun. I figured I'd chill at home, maybe watch a game or two, just relax. But then, my boy Andre calls me. Andre, man, he's one of those friends who's got your back no matter what. Yo, D, he says, you got a minute? I don't know how to say this, but I think you need to roll through to Maya's place. Like right now. At first, I'm like, what are you even talking about? He just sighs and says, trust me. I wouldn't call if it wasn't important. I had this weird feeling in my gut, but I tried to shake it off. Still, curiosity got the best of me. I got in my car, drove over to Maya's house, and parked a little down the street. I didn't want to make a scene if this was nothing. When I got there, I could hear music playing from the backyard. So, I walked around the side of the house, staying quiet. And then, I saw them. Jasmine and Maya, in the pool, all up on each other like I didn't exist. At first I thought, nah, this can't be what it looks like. But it was exactly what it looked like. Jasmine was kissing Maya, laughing, touching her like they'd been doing this for a while. I just stood there frozen. My chest got tight, my hands were shaking, and I felt like my brain couldn't keep up with what my eyes were seeing. I wanted to yell, to storm in there and demand an explanation, but honestly, I couldn't move. Eventually, they noticed me. Jasmine's face went pale, and Maya just stared at me like she didn't even care. Jasmine climbed out of the pool, dripping wet, trying to explain. It's not what you think, she said, but her voice was shaking. I just laughed, a bitter, hollow laugh. Not what I think. Really? So what is it, Jasmine? Some kind of joke? A mistake? She didn't have an answer. And Maya? She just stood there, arms crossed, like I was the one interrupting their moment. I didn't stick around for the excuses. I turned and walked out, got in my car, and drove off. The whole way home, I couldn't stop thinking about how blind I'd been. How they'd played me, right under my nose. It's been months since that day, and I'm still piecing myself back together. But you know what? I learned something. Trust is everything, man, and once it's broken, there's no going back. Some days I'm mad. Other days, I just feel empty. But I'm moving on. One step at a time. You ever have your heart drop so hard, you think it's just gonna stop beating altogether? That's what happened to me last summer. A regular day turned into the kind of nightmare you wouldn't wish on anyone. It all started with Jasmine, my girl of 3 years. She was the love of my life, or so I thought. Lately, though, things had felt different. She was distant, always glued to her phone, texting someone with this sneaky little smile. Whenever I asked, she'd say, "Oh, it's just Maya," her best friend since forever. I didn't think much of it because, well, Maya's always been part of the picture. One Saturday, Jasmine tells me she's heading over to Maya's place for some girl time. "We're just gonna hang out by the pool, maybe have some wine," she said. Nothing unusual about that. They did it all the time. "Cool," I said, trying to ignore the knot in my stomach. "Have fun." Later that afternoon, I was chilling at home, watching some basketball, when my phone buzzes. It's Andre, my ride or die. Yo, D, he says. You need to come through to Maya's place. I don't know how to say this, but I think something's going down with Jasmine. At first, I laughed it off. What are you talking about? She's with Maya. But Andre sounded serious. Trust me, man. Just come. You'll see what I mean. So, I get in my car, trying to calm the storm in my chest. I'm telling myself there's no way Jasmine would do me dirty. She loves me, right? Maya's like a sister to her. But something about Andre's tone stuck with me. When I got to Maya's house, I parked a little down the street. The music was loud, and I could hear laughter coming from the backyard. My heart was pounding, and my hands were slick with sweat. I didn't even know what I was looking for, but I walked around the side of the house anyway. And that's when I saw it. Jasmine and Maya, in the pool, wrapped around each other like they were the only two people in the world. Kissing, laughing, touching in a way that left no room for interpretation. I froze. My mind went blank, like my brain couldn't keep up with what my eyes were seeing. For a second, I thought maybe I was imagining it. Maybe this wasn't real. But it was. Jasmine spotted me first. Her smile dropped so fast, I almost felt sorry for her. She scrambled out of the pool, dripping wet, throwing on a towel like that was gonna fix anything. D, wait, I can explain, she stammered, but her voice was shaking. I just stared at her. Explain? Explain what, Jasmine? That you've been sneaking around with your so-called best friend? My voice was calmer than I expected, but inside, I was falling apart. Maya didn't even flinch. She just leaned against the pool's edge, arms crossed, like she couldn't care less. That made it worse somehow, like I didn't even matter enough for her to feel bad. Look, Jasmine started, her voice cracking. It's not what you think. Not what I think. I cut her off, laughing bitterly. So what is it then? Some kind of game? A joke? Because it sure as hell looks like you've been playing me for a fool. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She just stood there, wet and speechless, while Maya smirked in the background. I couldn't take it. I turned around and walked out. I didn't yell, didn't cause a scene, just left. Got in my car and drove aimlessly for what felt like hours, trying to make sense of how the woman I loved could do this to me. It's been months, and I'm still picking up the pieces. Some days I'm angry. Other days, I just feel numb. But one thing's for sure, I'll never ignore my gut again. You know, I never thought I'd be the guy with a story like this. The kind of story that leaves you questioning everything, your choices, your instincts, and the people you thought you knew. But here I am, telling it, because life decided to hit me where it hurts. It was a Saturday. A perfect summer day. The sun was out, the sky was clear, and I was feeling good, until my world came crashing down. Jasmine, my girlfriend of 3 years, told me she was heading to her best friend Maya's house. We're just gonna hang out by the pool, maybe have some wine, she said casually, like it was any other day. Maya had been part of Jasmine's life long before I came into the picture, so I didn't think twice. I told her to have fun and even kissed her goodbye. But something about that day felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe it was the way Jasmine had been so secretive lately, always on her phone, or how she laughed at texts she wouldn't share. I shrugged it off, convincing myself I was overthinking. Then came the phone call. My boy Andre, one of the few people I trust with my life, called me up out of the blue. D, listen, he said, his voice low, like he didn't even want to say the words. You need to get to Maya's place. I'm serious, man. Something's going on with Jasmine. What are you talking about? I asked, half laughing. She's just hanging out with Maya. What could be going on? Andre didn't laugh. He just said, You'll see. Just trust me on this. Now, I could have ignored him, brushed it off as some misunderstanding. But Andre wasn't the kind of guy to stir the pot for no reason. So, I got in my car, and every mile closer to Maya's house felt heavier, like my gut already knew what I was about to find. When I got there, I parked down the street, trying to stay calm. The music was loud, and laughter carried over the fence. I walked quietly around the side of the house, my heart pounding in my ears. And then I saw them. Jasmine and Maya, in the pool, tangled up in each other like I didn't even exist. Kissing, laughing, touching, like this wasn't the first time. Like they didn't have a care in the world. I froze. My chest felt tight, and for a second, I couldn't breathe. My brain couldn't process what my eyes were seeing. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a slap in the face, right there in broad daylight. Jasmine spotted me first. Her eyes went wide, and she scrambled out of the pool, grabbing a towel like it could somehow cover up what she'd done. "Dee, wait!" she called, panic all over her face. "I can explain!" I stood there, staring at her, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. "Explain?" My voice was low, steady, even though everything inside me was screaming. "Explain what, Jasmine? That you've been sneaking around with your best friend? That you've been lying to me this whole time?" Maya didn't even flinch. She just leaned against the pool's edge, watching like she didn't have a care in the world. That nonchalant look on her face made my blood boil. "It's not what it looks like," Jasmine said, her voice cracking. I laughed, a cold, bitter laugh that didn't even sound like me. "Not what it looks like? Are you serious? Because it looks like you've been playing me for a fool." She opened her mouth to say something, but nothing came out. She just stood there, dripping wet and shaking, while Maya looked on, completely unfazed. I couldn't take it. The anger, the betrayal, the humiliation, it was too much. I turned around and walked out without another word. Got in my car and drove away, my mind spinning, my heart shattered into pieces I wasn't sure I could ever put back together. That drive felt endless. I kept replaying the scene in my head, asking myself how I missed the signs. How the woman I loved could betray me like this, and with her best friend of all people. It's been months since that day, and the pain's still there, but it's duller now, like an old scar. I've learned a lot about myself, about trust, and about what I deserve. And one thing's for sure, I'll never ignore my gut again. You ever have one of those days where you wake up feeling like everything's just right? Like the universe is on your side? That was me last summer, kicking back, thinking life was good. Little did I know, by the end of the day, I'd be questioning everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and trust. Jasmine. My Jasmine. We'd been together for 3 years, and I thought she was my forever. We had this connection, you know? Like, we could talk about anything, laugh for hours, and just be. Or at least, that's what I thought. That Saturday started off normal enough. Jasmine was getting ready to head out and meet her best friend, Maya. They'd been tight since high school, inseparable like sisters. "We're just gonna hang by the pool, maybe have some wine," she said, flashing me that sweet smile I loved. "Sounds good," I said, leaning in to kiss her. "Have fun." She hesitated for a second, just a flicker of something I couldn't quite place, before she smiled again and walked out the door. The day dragged on after that. I tried to distract myself with some basketball, but I couldn't shake this weird feeling in my gut. Jasmine had been distant lately, more secretive, always texting and laughing at her phone. I wanted to trust her. I really did. Then my phone buzzed. It was Andre, my closest friend. "Yo, D," he said, his voice tense. "You got a second? What's up?" I asked, already sensing something was off. "I don't even know how to say this, man," he said. "But you need to get to Maya's place. Like now." My heart dropped. Why? What's going on? He hesitated, then said, Just trust me. You need to see it for yourself. I hung up, grabbed my keys, and got in the car. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight, my knuckles turned white. Every mile felt like an eternity. My mind was racing, replaying every moment over the past few weeks, searching for clues I might have missed. When I got to Maya's house, I parked down the street and walked up quietly. The music was loud, and I could hear their laughter floating over the fence. That knot in my stomach tightened with every step. I peeked around the side of the house, and there they were. Jasmine and Maya, in the pool. But they weren't just swimming. They were tangled up in each other, kissing, touching, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. My body froze, my mind blank. It was like watching someone else's life fall apart in slow motion, but it was mine. Jasmine saw me first. Her eyes widened, and she pushed away from Maya like she'd been caught stealing. She climbed out of the pool, dripping wet, clutching a towel to her chest. "Dee, wait!" she called, panic written all over her face. I just stared at her, my chest tight, my jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "Wait for what, Jasmine?" I said, my voice low and cold. "What exactly am I supposed to wait for? An explanation? An apology?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Maya, meanwhile, stayed in the pool, lounging like none of this mattered. She gave me this smirk, like she didn't even care that she'd just blown up my entire life. "It's not what it looks like," Jasmine said, her voice shaking. I laughed, but it was bitter, hollow. "Not what it looks like? Really? Because it looks like you've been lying to me for God knows how long. It looks like you've been sneaking around with your best friend while I've been sitting here, thinking we had something real." She started crying then, tears streaming down her face, but I didn't care. My heart was breaking too, but I wasn't about to let her see that. "You could have just told me, Jasmine," I said, my voice cracking despite myself. "If this is what you wanted, if this is who you are, you could have been honest. But instead, you let me believe we had a future. You let me look like a fool." Maya finally spoke then, her voice calm, almost bored. "Maybe you should go, Dee. This doesn't concern you anymore." I snapped. "Doesn't concern me? You think watching the woman I love betray me doesn't concern me? You think I'm just supposed to walk away like none of this matters?" But that's exactly what I did. I turned around and walked out. I didn't wait for Jasmine to beg me to stay, didn't stick around to hear her excuses. I got in my car and drove away, my vision blurred by tears I refused to let fall. The rest of that day is a blur. I drove for hours, ending up at some random lookout point, just staring at the horizon as the sun set. My mind was spinning, replaying everything over and over again. It's been months, and the pain's still there, but it's quieter now. Like a dull ache that reminds me of what I've lost and what I've learned. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, there's no piecing it back together. I'm still picking up the pieces of my heart, but one thing's for sure, I'll never ignore my gut again.